Well, good morning, everybody. I really don't know what this one's about this morning. I really don't. Daylight savings time is taking place. A little darker out right now. Gives a slightly different feel first thing in the morning. Kind of feels like you're going to work at night, but obviously you're not going to work in the morning. But I guess is that maybe what this discussion's about? Is sometimes the morning can feel like the night, when your day should be amazingly bright because of everything that's around you and everything that's involved in your life, that it should feel like morning. But when you look around you, it looks like it's nighttime. Oh. I mean, that's happened to me a lot, where, everything that you have that's happening in your life is amazing and bright and shiny. Yet the appearance of what's going on around you seems to be like it's darkness, like, the light's not shining. And I know I had done a discussion a long time ago about perspective. And perspective is, it's so much a part of our lives. It dictates so much in how we do things and why we do things, because of how we see the world and through whose eyes are we seeing them. Are we seeing them through our parents' eyes? Are we seeing them through our friends' eyes that we associate with? Are we seeing them through our employers' eyes? Are we seeing them through our kids, through our spouses, through our own? It's tough. Life is not easy by any shape of the imagination at all. We're always throwing curveballs and straight balls and all kinds of weird things that get lobbed at us, and then we have to decide how we're going to handle it, how we're going to walk with it. And for so many years now, I've had to figure out, when those things happen, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I handle it? And no matter what has happened in my life, no matter what good decisions, bad decisions, or direction that I decided to take, my compass for north, or true north, has always been God. It's always been Him, at least since I've known Him. He's been my point of reference. He's been my center. And without Him, I'm literally am lost, because I don't. When things go wrong or everything else, I look back when I didn't have Him, and everything would always spin out of control. And it would seem like there would be no recovery whatsoever. And now, when things hit the fan or when things go wrong, as I get older and the more I understand who He is, there's more of a calm that comes through, more of a peace that comes into my life, less of a reaction of panic and dread, and more of one of almost sometimes anticipation of the finish of what's going to be the result of this thing that just happened, And that's crazy if you think about it to some degree. Things are just hitting the fan left and right, and you're waiting to see, well, I wonder what God's going to do with this thing. Because I know what He did with the other few things that He did, or the multiple things that have happened, and it was amazing. So let's just kind of see what's going to happen with this. So I guess maybe today's discussion or encouraging word is, you got to find your peace. And honestly, your peace is only going to come from the one who created you. And I've got friends out there that don't believe, and that have been hurt, and have been, whether it's by the church or whether it's by family, and or they felt that God has betrayed them, or God has walked away from them, or God never cared. And so we make up all these rational reasons as to why He doesn't exist, or why the devil doesn't exist, or why heaven doesn't exist, or hell doesn't exist, or we come up with all these things to excuse away our pain. And so we end up in more pain because we have nowhere to turn to. At least anywhere to turn to that's going to make a difference. I mean, people turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs, they turn to sex, they turn to, they turn to finding this next person, that's going to make them happy. Or this next job that's going to fulfill everything that they're going to do. Or this next hobby that's going to make them, complete and whole. And the whole time you're still wandering around knowing that you're empty, knowing that you're lost, knowing that, that there is no fulfillment in that one place in your heart that you can't seem to get to. And it's there. You feel it, you sense it, you know it's there. That emptiness that gets covered up and masked and hidden by the things that you do every day. But the reality is that the only way that you can ever reach into that area, because man, it can be a tough area to get to. I mean, I'm still working on trying to, get my heart right, in the sense of getting my heart right with knowing that it's okay that, I'm not perfect, but that God resides within me, and all He wants to do is live through me and show me and everyone around me that, guys, I got this. I made you. I love you. I know what's in you. I know what I can do through you. And I know that I can take you to places in your heart and in this world that you can, can't even imagine. But the hardest thing that we have, man, is trusting. And I've got issues, and I've got friends and family that, trust and releasing love and releasing and becoming vulnerable. It's a tough thing to do, man, because you're throwing all these things in your life that eventually make it to where you build up shields and barriers and moats and, all kinds of crazy stuff you do to surround and protect yourself. But, it's just like, growing up as a kid, living in Denver. I mean, we had this little house and everything and lived in it. I went back when I was older, and it didn't click when I was a kid as much as it did when I was older, that, we had bars on the house. We put bars on the house because you're trying to prevent people from breaking in. But then it dawned on me, obviously, when I got older, that, dude, what happens if I need to get out? What if it's a fire? What if it's an emergency and I can't get to the door? I mean, there were bars on every single window, downstairs, upstairs, bars, like in a prison. So if something hit the fan and I couldn't get to the front door, and it'd say it's a fire, I'm dead. My parents, everybody's dead, because we created a prison for ourselves with the illusion that we were protecting ourselves from the bad guys that wanted our stuff, that were going to cause us harm. But in the end, the reality of it was more dangerous having the bars on the window day in, day out, than it was them not being on there. Because think about it, what is the stuff that they come in if they break in? What's the stuff that they're taking? It's material crap. It's stuff that it costs you money, and if you lose it, you're going to be upset, and you're going to feel violated that they came in your house and everything else. But the reality is, more than likely, unless it's some psycho dude, more than likely it happens, you're not home, and they take your stuff, you call the cops, and your stuff's gone and everything else, and then eventually you got to get it replaced, call the insurance company. But if you're living in that house and there's a fire and you can't get out and you get asphyxiated by the smoke, or you get burned up by the fire, how are you protecting yourself? You weren't. And I think that's what we do in our hearts to protect ourselves. is that we put bars, we put whatever barriers we can to protect ourselves from getting hurt, or the likelihood of getting hurt, for somebody breaking in and taking our stuff. But in the process, all of this chaos and turmoil is going on in our hearts. And when the stuff hits the fan, we can't get out. We can't find the peace that we need. We can't find the release that we need. We can't find a way out because we've locked ourselves in our own hearts to protect ourselves from people or from things that we think are going to cause us harm. But the one who's causing us more harm than anyone is our protective self. Our own mechanisms that we put up to protect ourselves from getting hurt. Now, I'm not saying that I know, how to release all of that and to take all the bars off the windows and, shut down the security system and do all that stuff. I'm still learning how to demilitarize my heart. Get rid of the zones that I've put around me and the layers of protective defense mechanisms that I have. In war situations, if you're trying to protect the command center or the area where everybody, where all the decisions are made and where all your troops are at, you create layers of protection to ensure that those people don't get harmed. That's the big scale, the outside of it that you see. But see, we do that naturally to ourselves. How do we know how to do it out in the world to protect ourselves physically? Because we've learned internally how to do it. We've learned how to build up all these defensive systems, to protect ourselves from harm. We've got the sentinels standing on the walls watching. There's something that happened. Yep, there's a yellow flag. There's a red flag. Okay, there's all these different things that you learn as warning signs and everything else. So each time that you see those things, you start to shut down a little bit more to protect yourselves from what may or may not happen from this individual or these individuals. But if you think about it, how many people are in the world? How many people are you going to encounter in the world daily? So what's the percentage or the odds of you getting hurt daily? I'd have to say they're probably pretty high. So what does that mean? What do we do with that? Do we eventually just recluse ourselves? Lock ourselves away, stay in our homes, make sure we don't come in contact with people because we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to take the risks of opening ourselves up to somebody and then they take and destroy or mutilate whatever it is that we have left emotionally in our hearts. I can't see how we can live life that way. I'm just talking from my heart here because when I'm self-counseling myself because I don't want to live life that way. I don't want to walk through the rest of my years on this planet in a war zone that I've created myself. Yes, people are mean. People are evil. But a lot of these people, that treat people the way that they treat people is because they're doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. They may display it in a different way. It may reflect back to you in a different way, but they're doing the same thing. They're protecting themselves. And in protecting themselves, a lot of times they become on the offensive. Therefore, they become the attackers. In other words, attack before you get attacked. And if you're not an aggressive person, then you're always in the defensive and you're always defending yourself. You're always in the corner, looking left and right, looking around, trying to make sure that, you're not going to get a bullet this way or an arrow that way or a knife stab this way or a punch this direction. So you walk through your life constantly looking around to see who's going to come next and destroy, who's going to come next and do this thing to your heart. Man, that's a horrible way to live life, man. I mean, just think about it. Really, really think about it. Look about your whole life and think about how much of the time do you spend in a defensive position if you're that individual. And if you're the other person, how much time of your life do you spend in attack mode to protect yourself? That you've got your body armor on and your gun in your hand, and you've got the, you got your little radio, and you're listening to the recon on what's about to come across the fence or come across the yard or step into your area. You're listening to the recon. And what's the recon? The recon's the gossip. The recon's what your friends and what your family and everything is telling you. Well, this is going on. This is happening. And you start listening to all this stuff, and the next thing you know, you end up with this weird paranoia of that someone's always trying to hurt you. And that ain't no way to live life, man. It's just, I just, and I've had a lot of things happen in my life to where I've been hurt, and to trust people is hard, man. It's really, really hard. And I'm talking, people that should never, ever hurt you, break your trust. But in the process, I've done it to people that I love. I've broken their trust. Because you get in that mindset. And I don't even think sometimes you realize you do it. Better to attack than to defend. And I'm not talking about yelling and screaming and shooting at people. I'm talking about attack behavior that puts you in a position to where you may or may not know that you're doing something to make sure that you don't get hurt. So if you're in a relationship or you've been in multiple relationships and you're always seemingly running, or, you get through it and months in and everything else and everything starts to fall apart and it starts to be this repeat behavior or repeat pattern, and it always seems to be the other person's fault, but it keeps happening, and it always seems to be the other person's fault, then you have to stop and go, oh, wait a minute. It's not possible for different individuals to all display the same trait to create the same situation to where it's always the other person's fault. You would have to be you, I would think. And I've learned these lessons. It'd have to be you. Because when things repeat themselves over and over again and it has the same outcome, then you need to look at the source of what's part of that situation. Not the outside influences, but look at what the source is. And typically that source is you. So all I'm saying is life is short. And we have got to start not only loving ourselves enough to become vulnerable, love ourselves enough to take down the bars. Remove the barriers, the multiple layers of defense, and start to work to become free. And God's the only one that I know that can create the freedom in us and help us to understand ourselves enough to learn to love people and to learn to love ourselves enough to no longer put ourselves in prison. Because I'm tired, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of being in that position. I don't want to be in that position. Because, man, it's nightmarish. I know there's too much out there. There's too much joy. There's too much amazing things that I can grab a hold of to put myself in a position to where I'm stuck in a prison cell that I made myself. Nobody put me in there. I did it myself. So anyway, motivation for today. Let's get free. Let's remove the bars. Let's shut down the security systems. Let's start to figure out how we can live with peace and joy. And I know where that is, and that's God. I know that's asking him, hey, Lord, you know my heart. Help me know my heart. If it's dark in there within my heart, let's shine some light in there. Let's start to take down the barriers that I've put up. Let's start to take down the shuttered up windows, and let's start to get some light shining in there. And let's for sure get the bars off. That's the starting point, man. So God, in the name of Jesus, I ask that the bars be removed in me. I ask that the shackles that I've put around my own self, that they be released so that I can be free. And anyone that's listening, I ask, Father, in the name of Jesus, that you would help them to start to release the barriers that they've put up themselves. Not what people have done to them, but what they've done to themselves to protect themselves. And that's just natural. But I want you to be my protector. I want you to be their protector so that they can be free to be everything that they need to be through you. Hey, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. May God bless you. I love you. Peace.